Part 4. So for the purpose of this training for vitals, I'm going to exclude the fall 2017 bucket just because I'm going to have to go back and do work you won't normally have to do. So easily here you can see here's our group buckets: general co-ed, hobbies. These are a lot of the people that came over, like the crafting ministry or the coupon ministry. They came over from outreach and they've decided they want to continue meeting and they're a group. And they don't necessarily ladder up under an exact category, so we added the hobbies and special interests. Okay, so these are our big chunks. So now I want to count. I got my group pivot table. I want to find out how many groups fall within each bucket, right? Because these should match. We will probably add hobbies and interests to general co-ed for the purpose of vitals. So we'll do that addition, and we can do that with the pivot table too. So we don't want to count group ID because that's a number and it'll add it up and be weird. So I just make it easy on myself and I count the group name. Each group has a unique name. So now I can say, okay, we have 71 general co-ed groups, 2 hobby groups, host groups, married couple groups. So you get the picture. I also need to know how many leaders are within each group category. And since it's a number within the original data, it comes together as a sum here, which is fabulous. So we have 71 general co-ed groups and 103 leaders, which is pretty good. That's typically of what you'll see because some leaders have co-leaders, so don't be surprised that we have more leaders than groups. Small tip, if you're looking to expand your groups, you could probably go to these co-leading groups and see if that co-leader is ready to step out. Sometimes they're more of an administrative co-leader, but it's just another thing to be aware of. And then we also want to know the attendance or the average attendance. Here is what I typically do. And so now I'm looking for what is called the individual count. Okay, the individual count assumes the number of the leader as well, which we want to count the leader and know who's in attendance. And instead of summing it, I take the average. So all I do is click on the I for this information to come up, and I click average because I can do the multiplication to get at the attendance. Okay, and you can go ahead and make it fancy, and if you want to add formatting, you can do that there. Okay, you can even change average group size, right? Leader count, and then group count. So you can just type, you can rename it, whatever makes most sense to you. And then you can see we're still missing one piece. This is global, and we really want to know by campus who's got what. So now I'm just going to use my pivot table builder, and I'm going to look for campus in my sorting. Here it is. So you can do it here, and you can filter. And remember, you're going to have blanks because there's a lot of old and inactive data. So that blank is okay. If you see the same name, that means there's a problem with the data because you should have one of each. So that means there's a space somewhere back in your sheet. But for the most part, it should look pretty darn good. Okay, so but we still, for the purposes of this, I think for me, how I do it in the easiest way is I take my campus and I slide it down to my row label. So this isn't exactly what I was expecting, right? I've got general co-ed and then it lists all the campuses. Well, that's challenging because that's not how our reporting's set up. So if I switch this around, this is the beauty of pivot tables. Now you'll see it's campus and then it lists all the different group types, and now you've got group count, leaders, average group size by campus, and group type. Okay? You could also build separate pivot tables for each campus if you wanted. It can be cumbersome and lots of work. Or you can take this and put the campus up here if that's how you prefer to see it. Now you've got your values running across the top. If you want to make it a little, again, it's all how visually you like to see things. So You can play with this until you're blue in the face. The data won't change, which is great. It just changes the layout of your pivot table. So what I typically do is I create one sheet and then I make one for each campus, just because I find it's easier for everybody to read that way. So we will I usually start with Point Loma because they have the most, and then it just makes it easier. So then what I do is I copy this whole pivot table. I just highlight the entire pivot table. You'll know you got it right because your pivot table builder will pop up. And I just hit Command C, copy it. I leave a few spaces and I hit paste. Okay, so now what I need to do, now that I've got all this done, is I need to get the inactives for this month. And so I just want that 2017 inactive. And now there's 47, but that's not by month, right? So that's just year to date, how many groups Point Loma's got closed. So this is why when we close our groups, we take this start date, and we have the schedule end date, and all these dates are hopefully matching. So I don't like that. And again, you just remove it. It's super simple. Let's see if this, here it is, group start date. So I want that here. And what you're seeing is it's everybody's start date. And you can see quickly that not everything is correct. Like I'm looking right here, that start date's wrong because when we move it to the inactive bucket, it should be the date. We should be changing all the start dates to the date we know it's inactive. For this reason, because we want to see who was by month, right? So now I can use my filters and say last month. So this is going to be anybody that had a close date in August, and it doesn't look like that's true. So I can clear my filter, and there's our August stuff. So we had married co-eds. These are all the people that are inactive for Point Loma. We know they're inactive. Oh, but that's not group type. We want Z inactive group type for 2017. Okay, now I want to do start date. Okay, it's filtered, so let's select all. So if there's nothing showing up, it doesn't look like there was anything closed in August, which seems really odd because I just saw some. I see some right there. So last month, why isn't it counting? All right, I'm gonna